quorum.
You're all set?
Is at 5:35. Yep, quorum. Pete, you want to begin with that business on your end, and then we'll get into.
Yes. So probably the most interesting thing is the skylights. We reached out to 2 more companies about getting a quote or an estimate to do repairs. Both of them, they came out.
Could you just back up a little bit
Sure.
to new people and tell them what's going on with the skylight?
Oh, of course. So the skylight is leaking. You can see there's a gap in the ceiling where we're dealing with the rain damage that we get. We've determined through a couple of tests that it is raining through the glass and not through the foundation, which is, I'm not sure how to describe it. It could be worse. We've been having some challenges getting vendors out here to do repairs on the skylight. A lot of companies don't want to touch another company's work, is what we've heard commonly. The original companies that did the skylight work, the skylight's original to the building in 1992. The company that did the louvers no longer does louvers. Louvers are the sunblocks that are up there. One of the companies that did the glass is no longer in business. The architects who designed it are no longer in business. So a lot of dead ends in trying to get the original companies to do the work. So we started reaching out to new vendors to try to get somebody to do the work. Most of them either don't want to touch another architect's work, or what we've heard most recently through the 2 most recent vendors is it's out of their scope. It's kind of a scale that they don't work in. What I'm hearing, and I'm not an expert in skylights, is that our skylight, we consider it commercial. Many vendors consider it to be commercial/industrial. So even vendors that do commercial work are surprised by its complexity up there. So the way it's designed is we have the skylight itself, which is exactly what you'd expect. It's glass work and metal work. Then there's sunshades on top of the glass work. So any work we have to do to the glass, the sunshades have to come off. The sunshades haven't been functional, and we don't know how long. They were disconnected at some point. They're meant to open and close. They no longer do. We also put our solar panels on top of the skylights. So any work that we do, we have to move or either work around the solar panels or move them. So complex project. One company is promising Titan Roofing. They came up. They were the first company that we saw that didn't balk at the scope of the work. The concern that myself and Jason, our facilities manager, had is that we've done so much work on the skylight that we're worried that other vendors and contractors might not understand the scope. So we're going to have another conversation with Titan on Friday just to go over the scope one more time and make sure they know what they're dealing with. Originally, we had talked about it would be nice to replace all of the panels while we're up there, because that way we would know exactly this is when they were installed. They're all uniform. It would be a good project to get a New York State grant for. Grants in New York State for this type of work are typically, they don't do grants for straight repairs, but they will do grants for enhancements and improvements. So if we got better glass, newer glass, that would be covered by a grant. That might be a little ambitious. We've missed the grant window for this year. So that's not an option for right now. So now we're focusing on, it's only the westernmost panel that's leaking. So we're hoping to just replace and repair that panel, gets us through the immediacy, and then maybe in a future year we can do grant funding to update everything. So Titan's going to come back in on Friday and talk to us some more about it, just to make sure they understand the scope and that their estimate is still good. They gave us an estimate of a little less than $10,000, so it's reasonable as far as these projects go. But we want to be really confident that.
Yeah, it just sounds like it's a low side number.
That's part of our concern.
It's a complex piece of work up there. I went up on the roof when we first started looking at it, just by way of background. The company that did the architect who did the renovation project, we had them engaged at that point in time, and they reached out to a local company that did skylights, and over time, both of those leads went cold. In terms of them communicating with us, having any appetite for taking on the work. So it's really peculiar that you have something that's a nice, juicy piece of work up there that they could probably quote us something and then probably get into a bunch of change orders on as it the complexity of it becomes more apparent, but they just didn't bite at it. And so we got this name Titan from who, the Upper Hudson system.
So Upper Hudson recommended a firm that did work on the Utica library. That firm recommended Titan because it was out of scope for their work.
So it's an unsightly situation that we have here with a newly renovated library with the panels off and then leaks down the pole. You know, you would think that after renovation, everything would be spanking new for a period of time, but we have this, this situation, and it is one that is surprisingly difficult to get anybody to fully get into, and it's a risky scope of work, as Pete said. Somebody getting into it, underquoting might be, it just sounds too good to be true that it can get done at this price level, given the complexity of what's up there. But we don't have any alternatives at this point in time other than to keep the buckets underneath the posts. So if you guys have any experience in fixing skylights, feel free to put them forward.
Yeah, so I'll have more to come after that, but yeah, we're too small for the big firms and we're too complicated for the small firms. So it's not a good place to be. So, other items, late breaking news, you may have noticed coming in that we took down the blue and yellow pylons that were blocking off, that were directing traffic. There was a request from the fire chief for the region. Apparently, the reason why we never put a divider in there is because it limits the turn radius of the fire trucks. So if they were concerned that if they came through in an emergency situation, they'd either have to stop to move the dividers or staff would have to remember to move the dividers. So we were it was framed as, you don't have to do this, but boy, in an emergency, we really don't want those things there. And I'd like to stay on the fire chief's good side. So we took him down. He did say that Department of Transportation pylons or cones that are 38 inches or shorter would be acceptable to the fire department. So we're gonna investigate. Originally, we put cones up. The cones didn't last, unfortunately. We had really small cones. So we'll try some larger cones and see if they last. It's a shame. We got a lot of compliments on it. People really liked the look of that divider, and it really did help the traffic out there. So that's unfortunate.
That's still viable during events.
Yeah, and we still have the equipment, and I think we can find other uses for them. But yeah, I think if we can guarantee that we're gonna put them up and take them down ourselves, then I think the fire department will live with it. Cool. And then in exciting news, you may have noticed we haven't hung the largest painting that we got above the aquarium, but I talked to facilities. We're gonna hang that tomorrow. Mike from the foundation is here visiting, so thank you, Mike, for being here. If you could pressure that one artist about the jellyfish to return the waiver, I'd really like to hang that.
Yeah, that's how I'm gonna discuss that.
The other, I wrote a little show and tell. We have been procuring other pieces of art that match the library's general theme. So we have a cow. And then we also have a advertisement for a circus in Gilderland. The circus was currently on the corner across Winding Brook Lane. That's where that address matches to. So I'm gonna have the librarians do a little research into the history of this, but we're looking for things that are either cow themed or Gilderland theme or outdoorsy. So if anybody knows any artists or if you see anything like this, there was a similar piece that Assemblymember Romero purchased for her office. And I reached out and said, hey, would you be willing to loan that to us? And she didn't get back to me, but then the company that she got it from had that. So we're adding art. And there is I refer to it as a unified design theory for the art that we're selecting. It's Gilderland cows and wildlife and outdoors.
So Mike was on the board last year, and in the transition to the new trustees, he became leader of the volunteers. Is that what it is? Or
I'm a foundation board member right now, and we're gonna try to form like a friends group at some point. Yeah, I'll join that there.
Mike was doing all the work. One of the big issues is to add decor. And the initial idea we started with was murals, but we got into more detailed context than that, about how to deal with the various wall spaces that we have. And Mike reached out to the various schools in the district, and then he was in contact with Garden Club and with Gate Farm, and through those over the course of the year, put together a combination of art displays that we're in the process of putting together when his term ended, but he's now with the foundation and looking to get the volunteers going. Great asset to the library. So he's wanted to give an update to the committee on his work that he's carrying over into the foundation at this point in time.
So I'll start with the plants. With the garden club, they're going to be donating 2 more plants. So I've been the one that's been watering the plants. So they're going to be donating 2 more. So we're going to have another big spider plant and a peace plant. So we'll have 2 more plants to add to the library. So I'll add those to my watering schedule.
I thought they were gonna.
They backed out of it, so I didn't want to lose the plants, so I said I'll do it because we did all the work to get the plants in here, so I'm not gonna They were like, yeah, we don't want to take the time to. They said they would, and then they backed out of it, which unfortunately does happen. But I said I would do it. So that's with the plants. And then with the art, I have a ton of art being worked on right now. So the girl that painted the jellyfish painting, she's painting a fish painting. And she's painting a something in Towsantha again. So we got 2 more paintings coming from her. She's working on that right now. And then I have another girl that's working on 5 Grufus paintings.
Hey,
So she's doing a big mural of Grufus. He's gonna have be in the library and have books over his head. And then she's gonna do other ones. She's gonna do 4 smaller ones, and one of them is Grufus at the farmer's market. So, and he's at the farmer's market and he's got books above his head. So I was thinking we could put that up at the farmer's market. And then the other ones are just small ones. One of them's interactive, so the kids can do something where they go online and look for books, and she's doing all these amazing so she's doing Grufus specifically, but she's working on 5 paintings right now. So I got 7 paintings right there. And then the Gildan art teachers, I have an elementary teacher and a high school teacher that will be sending me art too, that the library can look at it to add to the. So we got a lot of art being worked on. So, but the one girl that wanted to do 5, she's like, "Can I do 5?" I'm like, "If you want to, yeah." I'm not gonna stop you. Yeah. But they're all Grufus, which fits with the, like you said, the themes. And she's a really good painter. Her painting is kind of on the level of the Towsantha Park one. So she's very she's in the National Art Society, and she loves to paint and everything. So
that's awesome.
So I got Michael's to donate a canvas again. I've been getting, because I don't want them to have to buy all the canvases. They're okay. They were we have small ones we can use, but the bigger ones I've been getting donated so they don't have to pay for it. So
What's going up tomorrow? Which wall?
We're gonna put it by the aquarium. It's the Towsantha Park.
and she said she'll send the waiver about the jellyfish one too. So but she's working on 2 other paintings too. So the jellyfish one lights up. It has a black light in the back of it. So it's pretty cool. I like it. Yeah. So she's gonna do a fish, and I thought that would be perfect because it's a fish tank. So if we can have a fish there,
I
that'll
think
fit.
that'd be great. Just so everyone knows, we, before we hang the art, we make sure they sign a waiver. And we've been typically taking the art for 1 year, and then we return it to the artist. If we start getting a lot of art, we might shorten those and be we'll hang it for 4 months, 3 months.
To the point that you raised, Matt, about getting involved with the schools. This is one area that we've had some immediate success with, because the schools every year do an art display in the Helderberg room, and they hang, the walls are just covered, stuff hanging from the ceiling and everything. But that provided the idea, instead of doing a one-time mural that would just be static, of engaging the current group of kids to come in and change up the art every once in a while, so that it has a refreshing sense, and then the kids have some connection and ownership within the library itself. And so the idea is that this stuff is easily put up and easily taken down, but then refreshed. So
And being part of the foundation, they want me to be like a school liaison. So they want me to like work with the teachers. So I'll be able to meet the different art teachers and all the different teachers that want to do stuff in the library, and we can like do programming and stuff with that. So that's gonna open that up where I can, even get even more, like, not just art, but other things.
The two big areas of opportunity are down by the fish tank, the
You know.
walls, it goes up to the ceiling, and then this area right here, circulation deck.
Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that one of the artists that painted the painting that's going up, she's working on banners to cover the pipes.
Yeah.
So that's another,
That's
that's another,
Use that space.
she's gonna make like a senior banner, some kind of senior banner type thing. So I thought that'd be nice. That would represent Guilderland again. So going for that theme.
Do we have a solicitation out to the community for art in general?
There's various community art displays in the course of the year on the Helzberg Room. There's a lot of various photographers and artists too. We have some people, I know one of my friends has done a display in there. And so there's just that opportunity, once we get going with the schools, to get the broader community putting art in here. But that's why we came up with the legal template for waivers and things of that nature, so that we have a way of getting it in, getting it out. And then,
The
understand.
thought was, once we got up and running, we would make a section of the website that was like, would you like to give us art? If it fits these criteria, submit this ticket and we'll be in touch with you.
Great.
Because right now it is kind of scattered.
Have we ever had any contact with the State Museum and the Summer Arts Institute?
Not that I'm aware of.
Just something to put out there, and I do have connections there, that they run that program every summer. They bring in local kids, they do artwork every year. And you can go to the State Museum and they have floor to ceiling, all this art from kids over the years. And I don't know what their criteria is for borrowing it, but you can do that.
So from our current fairly corporate look to come up with, as opposed to murals on the wall, but different shades on the wall.
Yeah.
What are you doing on that?
So we have to repaint Norman Skill anyway, just because those walls need a little PLC. So that'll probably be the first room to get an accent wall. We're still thinking about within the building where to put the accents. I'm thinking maybe the self-checkout, the checkout wall would be good. But part of the process, and this is what Mike was talking about with having things above the exit and above the fish tank, is we want to draw people in and then lead people out. So it's coming and going, you see something.
I can't wait to cover those pipes up. Those look horrible. If we have nice Guilderland banners there like that, when they're leaving the library, that's something nice to look at. So that will be
So,
I'm sorry, Bethany, that was the State Museum? that has
Yeah,
that?
it's the State Museum. It's called I think it's New York State Summer Institute or something. They had lost funding for a couple of years, but they got it back this prior summer, so.
anything else from your end?
No.
Pete, farmer's market was at our discussion back in July, but I don't know, ever collectively understood how we move forward from that position to where we are now.
So there's a little bit more discussion. The vendor that runs the farmer's market and the vendor they were having a dispute with did not want to engage with each other. So there was a little bit more back and forth using the library as an intermediary. And after a couple of those, I said, the two of you have to resolve this. Because they had moved on to financial discrepancies, and the library has zero role in their financial discrepancies. So to my knowledge, that is being resolved. I have not heard anything this week from either party. The issues of the insulting behavior between the two parties, I don't think either party apologized to each other or promised to do better in the future. So the behavior stopped, which is nice, but I don't think there was a resolution to that issue.
Is the farmer, did he ever show up again, or are they?
Nope, they have decided to part ways. The farmer's market has at least two other farm vendors who they've replaced that vendor with. 2 weekends ago, both farm vendors were here. Last week, I think it was one. So they're holding their end of the bargain to have a fresh produce vendor at the market. But the presence of the vendors, they don't come every week. They're kind of on what their own schedule that they determine with the markets. I'm not sure. Like, for example, I know that the barbecue truck wasn't here last week. They might have been at the fair, might have had conflict, I'm not sure. So yeah, that's where we are. Farmers Market is operational through the first Sunday in October, so we've got another 6 or so weeks of Farmers Market. I will say, so I was here at this most recent Farmers Market. We're doing book sales once a month. So the next one is September 7th, I believe. Just verify that very quickly. Historically, the board has had a presence and they often sell used books or answer questions about library service. September 7th will be the next one. We're using our Square. We're using the Square software to track our actual sales like we did at the book sale. Last weekend, we did $117 worth of used books. In July, we did 35, I think. So not,
Do you need volunteers for that?
we've got a couple, but I can always take more. Let me check
We
with
could
the-
use like the volunteers that we used from the other.
I'm using book sale volunteers.
Yeah, no,
Yep, because they know how
okay.
to use the Square.
Okay.
But yeah, so I think part of it was driven by July with the weather was bad, so people were kind of staying away. But we also, in July, we only put out 2 book trucks worth of books, and this time we put out 5. So it might have just been volume.
And our trustees, I know I was in one in July, but I haven't been able to catch up since then.
I didn't solicit the trustee request, but I was going to this month's meeting and see if anybody wanted to come on the 7th.
Do we have a Guilderland table out there every week, or is it just the book sale weeks?
We have the option to have a table anytime we want. That's part of our contract, so we're allowed to have a free table.
What have we been having? No.
No.
Okay.
And I also haven't solicited if anybody wants a table, because the downside is if you have a table, I have to be here because I set it up.
Yeah, no, it's a big burden for you.
It's a challenge for me, yes.
What your thoughts on that are, but, last year in previous years, we have had a higher trustee engagement, but, sometimes it's one trustee bears the brunt of it, and it's a pretty tough, when you only got 9 of us, and there's so few summers, and everybody's got family and stuff like that. It's a tough part to sort of line up who they're gonna be there, and then call in Pete, and he's gotta come in every Sunday to do it and set it up, because the library does not have a depth of volunteers to do that type of work.
Even if we did, we would need a staff member to get into the building.
Yeah, so it's burdensome to get the library and the trustees out there. So I think once a month is a not too difficult ask. And I think we can probably get from volunteers or some trustees out there to do it. But that's sort of a variation from what we've done in previous years. So.
Yeah, at the Flower Festival, we had a great response with Oatmeal there.
Yep.
I'm quite happy to bring him. And I can't get you full hours out of him. He taps out after about an hour and a half or 2. But I'm happy to open like 10 to 12. Especially if we're doing this monthly, I don't think that's a hard lift. I prefer the morning because it's gonna get hot. Yeah, I'm happy to use his presence there to help advertise Pause to Read, just sort of like introduce who we are to the larger community that way.
Who do you have? I'm sorry.
My dog Oatmeal is one of the therapy dogs for the Pause to Read program. Yep. And so I brought him to the Flower Festival a couple of weeks ago, and he was a hit. I'm happy to use him to advertise for the library as well.
I would love that. And one of the things that we talked about last year when we did having trustees there was to be like soliciting feedback or answering questions about the library. So this is a perfect tie-in with like, did you know we do Pause to Read?
Yeah.
Oatmeal's literally right here. Love that. Yeah, if you want to come on the 7th, or if you want to pick another weekend.
I think you've already got Kayla for volunteer on the 7th, so it looks like my Sunday is also free to come hang out.
Perfect.
Anything on Jason and the facilities crew? That's all.
Yeah, we unfortunately lost another of our facilities crew. That's for the benefit of the new board members. That's been our most challenging department. It's hard work. Our salaries are set by contract with our union, so not a lot, we don't have a lot of wiggle room in what we can do to recruit. So we are currently down to two, but we just made an offer. Our goal is to have five custodians when we're fully staffed. It used to be four. We'd like to go back up to five, specifically because we're running into difficulties with staffing. So we were at four, we're now at two because one is on leave. She'll be back at the end of the month. We've made an offer that'll bring us up to four, and then we're gonna recruit for the fifth position again.
And these are full-time?
Yes, yep.
Jason's still in place though, right?
Jason's not going anywhere.
Jason, we hired him about a year ago. He ran his own landscaping business. I believe, he came in here and he was immediately proactive in terms of handling all the issues that we had and making the grounds look good. But fixing the AC and spot checking the various little things that went around, he was just perfect compared to what we were dealing with before. We had an old garden here that had a number of dysfunctional issues, and all that was swept away. We did have a good crew of 5 people at the beginning of the summer, I guess, and now we're down to 2. But that's just, the wage level is low. And the turnover at that wage scale is to be expected high.
And they're not fun shifts. I mean, there's a morning shift and a day shift. They have to work weekends.
Is there a way to like bolster that with volunteer? Or is there liability issues around that?
I think it's more of a contractual issue that we can't have volunteers doing union work.
Gotcha.
We've explored augmenting it with like an outside firm that can come in and do some of the work.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that is still an option. I'm optimistic that when we get the new person in and when the other staff member comes back from leave and we're up to 4, that's pretty good. And then if we can get a good fifth, it'll be good.
Is the union doing anything to facilitate bringing candidates to fill those positions?
Not yet. We haven't asked them yet, but it's as big a concern for them as it is for us to have this kind of turnover. So we next meet with them in September. We have a quarterly labor management meeting. So I think that's something we're going to talk about is what can we do about this?
But just a couple of other topics, for the new people on here, a few of the things that we sort of not pressing immediately, but we have this overflow parking lot and whether or not we need to do something to we renovate that or just pave it over and do a seal coat on it, paint it. That's a question that's sort of we've been debating back and forth. Anything on that?
No action. Jason's our facilities manager. He and I talked about it. His position is parking lot's okay. He's like, it's not going to get better. So at some point, we're going to have to do this work, but it doesn't have to be right now. But we haven't taken any action on it. We've been in a holding pattern.
So that's it for our agenda, our discussion. No decisions this time, but just felt it was good to bring you guys up to speed on all the different topics we have been dealing with, given the issues that we have with the cafe and then with the construction and all that stuff. We're sort of in a more pleasant pastures. Some of the issues facilities has had to deal with, these are sort of like really garden variety types of issues. We hope to keep them that way. We could just get this skylight thing resolved and done with some degree of confidence, we would be pleasantly just overseeing the routine stuff here. So.
I have just a question on the skylight again for you.
Sure.
You mentioned that we consider ourselves commercial and that the vendors that have been coming in to look at this put us somewhere between commercial and industrial. Have we reached out to industrial companies to look at this?
Not ones that are specifically like we do industrial. We've been broadening our scope that originally we were trying like a local company. And now we're looking anywhere from New York City to Utica. We're going to find somebody. But no, we haven't found anyone who's like, we specifically do library industrial stuff.
Right.
But Titan carries some pretty significant projects on their website.
Yeah, you looked into their work history.
Yeah, and they're not lightweight. I mean, they've done some significant stuff, and you would think that they could get into this and give you a viable answer relatively quickly, but that hasn't, we'll see what they come up with.
We'll see what they come up with, and like I said, they were the only company that wasn't like, that didn't get up there and go, oh, and do like a double take at the work. Their guy was very confident, and when he looked at it, he's like, yeah, we do this all the time.
Did they give you an estimate of how, like the time frame of how long it would take or not yet?
They said the actual work itself on the skylight would just be a day.
Great.
There would be some initial work in removing the sunshade, and if we have to remove the solar panels. So probably 2 days, maybe, but they were like, the work itself is a day.
Yeah, because I'm assuming with winter coming, like we really need to get it resolved.
Yeah, they were, a conversation that we've had as a committee previously that I'm in favor of is every vendor I've spoken to, nobody was like, you should close the library while this work is happening. I feel strongly we should close the library while the work is happening, just because we're dealing with glass and we're dealing with cranes. It wouldn't be a pleasant experience for anyone to use the library. I don't know if any company we've worked with, including Titan, would be like, sure, we'll do it on Sunday when you're closed anyway. There might be a cost component there. But if it comes down to it, I would highly recommend that we're just not open the day the skylight work is done. And Bill, while we're covering just things that we don't need decisions on, but that we should be mindful of, Mercy Care Lane, that's the road, the private road that comes in, leads to the library. The back half of Mercy Care Lane is owned by the town of Guilderland. You can see a difference in the paving quality. It's the stretch beyond the two medical buildings behind us to where it meets Winding Brook Lane. A developer owns this stretch of Mercy Care Lane. I was told by the town supervisor that at some point it was sold to a different developer, so we're still sorting out who owns it. It needs paving and it needs restriping. So
There's also like a bunch of equipment and stuff back there and like broken glass, because I ride my bike sometimes through there.
Yep, yeah, it's a little bit of a show,
Yeah.
just because of the different jurisdictions.
Yeah.
So I did a little, we've, as a board, historically, we've gone over this before. There's issues with Mercy Care Lane's drainage. Nobody really wants to take ownership of that stretch just because it needs remediation. But I had some positive initial conversations with the town supervisor just about getting it restriped, because we currently don't even have our crosswalk visible, and that's not ideal. So no promises, but the town supervisor's position was if there's a really bad pothole or superficial work, their cosmetic work, they're happy to do it, but nobody wants to own the road. So no action required, but it's good to keep in the back of our mind, because that's something that like I'm not thrilled with the state of the stretch there.
Okay, anybody else have anything else to add? Okay, all right, so meeting adjourned at 6:07.